So that leads us nicely back around to racing. So the season's underway now. We're mostly heading indoors. Well, a lot of us slightly softer riders who are not too keen on pulling on the wet weather gear all the time are heading indoors. We've got some great series that are appearing on GT now, some long series races, and some short series racing, some great individual one-day events that people can piece together, and they can do their own 5-day, 10-day series, really put themselves to the sword, really make themselves in a world of pain. But I've got some races that I'm looking at doing, the maybe 5-day races coming up in the next 2-month period. I've come out being, I've actually done less racing because of the way COVID's gone and because of less organised summertime racing. My friends have not been able to organise things, childcare, all the other stuff that's happened because our normal routines have all been messed up. So I'm less fit going into the winter season than I would normally have been. What's the best way of, on the turbo, getting myself back to fitness? Am I best off doing HIIT sessions? Am I best off doing endurance sessions? Am I doing low heart rate sessions? Is it a mixture of all the above? Should I throw in some race sessions? What would be the
I would say it depends very much on an individual. That said, we have to assume a level of base fitness. Because if you haven't done any base riding, like this, you're totally fresh to it, or you've had months off, then you need to start with some bit of base work, just riding at a low heart rate and turning the legs over. But let's make an assumption that you've got a little bit of base fitness in there. I would certainly be looking to start off with a good mixture of zone 3 through to 5. So zone 3 is kind of like 76 to 90% of threshold. Zone 4, 91 to 105%, and then up to 120% with zone 5. Start with the first two. What you're looking to do really is to be able to improve your capacity to hold power for a longer period. And it comes down to like the power curve. It depends what you're trying to achieve. So like if we took Froome's power curve versus Cav's power curve, Froome can maintain a high, but got pretty close to threshold for a long time, that's basically described as triathlete. Whereas Cav can hold a reasonable number, but basically his capacity to spike and go up these massive numbers is much higher. And so if you're looking to do like a 5-day tour race, for example, realistically you're looking to be a Froome. Because you still need to be there on day 3, 4, and 5, right? And without a professional sprinters team around you, dragging you through the stages, getting ready to beat the hell out of everybody at the end. And it might be that you've got a sufficient number of friends on RGT that you can use some wheels. And I know I'm usually clinging to grim death to somebody's wheel somewhere. But that zone 3, zone 4 work. So zone 4, zone 3 should be like that. Trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable, but you should still be quite in control. Zone 4, you're just pushing the envelope of that a little bit. But if you want to crack open the ceiling, once you've done a couple of weeks of that, then the zone 5 really helps. I like adding races into people's programs. One, because it's engaging. But secondly, you don't get to choose necessarily when it is you put the effort in, which is real life or racing in this instance, where you haven't picked the course to suit you specifically. It's been fixed by some sadistic, course designer like me. So it's designed to, and you don't get to choose when that happens. Obviously, you can just back off the power, but if you want to compete, you need to be able to react to what's going on. So that really helps you. I like to do a lot of work with my athletes of cross-zonal work for that very reason. You don't just sit in a certain zone. You might be able to be close on some courses which are like super flat, but it could be super windy. Part of it, it might be hilly, it might be technical at some point. So your capacity to dip into other zones is important. But yeah, start with zone 3, 4, and then add in some 5, and then as you're getting comfortable with that, add in the races to blend it all together. And the races will push you beyond. Well, we did what was supposed to be an endurance ride. I haven't revisited the course. I'm still quite nervous about it, actually. Like 2020, it called it Fire Mountain, and it was Teide in Tenerife, and it was 2 hours 15 on the first climb, and you get over the top and it keeps going. All right, it was bad. I'd been a little bit on my own going up there. I'd actually set, and after the first half hour, yeah, that's right, because I caught Rob Stone's wheel and clung to him for grim death. And I was riding at like 300 watts on the flat over the top, and on his wheel, like I was typing, I can't go past you, mate. There's no way I can go past you. I am at max here. And I did my two best 90-minute power. No, best 60-minute power, sorry, of 2020 back to back on that session, which was horrendous. I think there's only about 4 people that finished it, and it was designed in that way, designed to challenge people. But yeah, that took a few years off my life, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, I've done some of your endurance rides. They are life shortening. You're right.
Exactly. Use the maximum amount of time. So definitely always 100k. And can you get in before the cutoff? That's the key.
Yeah, I remember there was some comments from a couple of riders on the fact of like, are you supposed to be able to finish this in the
maybe
chat afterwards?
Depends how strong you are, doesn't it? And the thing is, I think also during the lockdown period, that was quite useful because it's a proper challenge, and it's interesting because you've got to focus and tactics come into play, and it's just good. We'll have to revisit some of those this winter. Maybe not Fire Mountain.
Yeah.
It's bad. It's so bad.
I might have to find some better excuses for those days.
Yeah, I attach some helium to myself. Yeah, make myself in at 50 kilos or something. But yeah.
So coming back now to the handicap race. So every Thursday night, it's a mainstay of the RGT calendar. We've got the handicap race on at 7 o'clock GMT time on the Thursdays. You've designed a whole manner of courses using inspiration from all over the country and different countries, like you say, using the magic roads, but also going into dipping into the real roads occasionally now and again. We used Pienza last week. So what's the purpose of the handicap, Will? Why do we have a handicap on these races, and what makes the handicap race different to a lot of the other races that are out there in the RGT world?
Yeah, so I mean, if you get like super technical with it, or actually not even that technical with it, you can pick the faults in it. As I sort of described it earlier, it's your FTP divided by 3.2, and that's your weight. So it's like the horses, you're adding or weight to your saddlebag, or in actual fact, you're also losing weight for some people. The main reason we do it is to ensure that everyone's working at a similar level. Now, like I say, if it's watts versus watts per kilo, it can be a bit different. If you're climbing out the saddle, it changes things in terms of what you're capable of pushing because you're using your body weight. But the main reason we do it is inclusivity and participation, so that we can all get a really high quality workout together, thoroughly engaging. But it means that maybe some of the less strong riders get to mix it with the gladiators that or the blades that you see charging off in the distance on a regular race. And everyone knows what e-racing is like. You're giving it all the beans off the start, but if you're maybe not in that top 5%, you find yourself pretty lonely pretty quickly. You're just doing an individual time trial. By adding weight to some of the stronger riders and reducing the weight for some of the weaker riders, it means that there's a chance for everyone to get involved with race tactics. A lot of us are on the Discord channel as well. And it just makes it a little bit fairer. And as an example, though, like my dad is 79, and he's pretty much raced every week. and he may lack the top end power, but on like the long hills with the weight handicap, he's coming back, and it's it's encouraging for those riders in particular. I also add in some bots to look after the back end of the field. The bots are there really, for the back third of the field. But generally, on an hour race, we typically, the main body will certainly finish within like a 4 or 5 minute window, and sometimes even less, which is great. And there's obviously always people that haven't read the instructions or they've willfully ignored it, but it actually doesn't matter, because unlike most races where the podium is what it's all about, the podium's great and we applaud the effort, assuming that people have applied the handicap, but actually we don't really care. What our main sort of prize is the combativity award, which obviously you typically get at like Tour de France and so on. And we send out a PDF with somebody's name on it, and those people are voted for by their teammates or by people who were racing that day. And what it is the person that either accented the race the most, and put themselves to the sword the most. And it could be somebody who's set like their best 60-minute heart rate of all time, because they just thrashed themselves to put the effort in. It could be somebody who sacrificed for somebody else, who they put in a huge turn to bring back one of their friends or something to the group, and they got ready for the final attack, whatever it is. But that's what it applauds effort, and that's really what we celebrate, because ultimately that's what it's about. It's about engaged effort, and getting the benefits of that engaged effort when you then go and race in real life, or frankly just the capacity to, it's a hard session, you're a little bit nervous before, but it's a nice way of getting a really hard session in an engaging manner for all ages, abilities, and whatever else. And I think that's what's been great about it. Particularly some of our older riders, I think, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know there's quite a few older riders who get involved, who are they're repeat riders week after week. Just worth mentioning as well, you did mention briefly that they're the watts per kilogram as opposed to the raw watts. And I know for myself, I'm generally at the moment racing the races at my own body weight, which is good and bad because I'm a little bit heavier. But they do tend to be hillier races, a little bit spiky here and there. Yeah. And that is there so that the weight handicap does take effect, isn't it? Because if you just had the flatter courses, the plainer, flat, straightforward courses, weight does not have as much of an effect on rolling resistance. It needs those hills for that handicap to take effect, and for those lighter riders to catch up with some of the heavier or more powerful riders. And that's what makes it more even.
And, we do some flatter courses. If we do a flatter course, we tend to make it more technical, so that there's more sprints coming out of corners and so on, which the lighter riders of the watts per kilo will have a little bit of edge on, but that's sustained high wattage on the flats. Like watts per kilo basically don't really matter. You've got someone who's pumping 400 and someone who's doing 200, but you've got a 50 kilo, 100 kilo rider. It's the same watts per kilo, but the 400 guy is going to win every time, because just to stay in the draft, I think he's going to have to do 30. It'd be like 260 watts, it'd be well over threshold just sitting in the draft. So watts per kilo matter on a handicap race, so we always put significant hills in, and by significant, of course, I mean awful. There's actually been some of our European friends of particularly when it's a British race. I race, as you allude to, we race all over the continent, around the world, but when it's a British race designed course and it's like 24-25%, because trainers can only handle 25% anyway, right? And they're like, what is this? This is not possible. This is ridiculous. Like, nah, that's pretty much how it is, actually. Classic British road, just go straight up it, don't go around it. Also, there's not the space, right? You probably have to knock 3 people's houses down just to make a switchback. So that's been a bit surprising, in inverted commas, for some of our continental friends. But leg breaking is another term. But,
I know It's interesting as well. I know on some of the races I've seen where there's been newer riders to the format, and they've come in and they've adjusted the watt per kilogram, the weight for the first time perhaps, and you've seen how it's affected their riding style, because they've come in with a big FTP and they've put on a load of weight, and then they've hit the first hill or maybe even the second hill, and then have not realised oh, I should be up this, I should be up and over it by now, putting too much effort. And you can see on the second, third climb, they've just burnt too many matches and just crumbling away.
I think what's actually important, which is the indoor riding, there's this preoccupation with watts per kilo. Like if I'm racing, I'm pretty much always just looking at the watts per kilo. But actually, one thing that handicap race sort of reteaches you to do is to look a bit more at the actual power number, because that's much more relevant. That's the only bit on there that's relevant to you. Because you never really look at watts per kilo when you're outdoors in real life. You just ride. You look at the power, the speed is what it is, and so on. So the handicap sort of reteaches that in some respects, and in exactly that instance where once you get used to it, you go right. I know where my threshold is. I know what I can sustain. Therefore, I'm looking at that number rather than watts per kilo. I remember doing a race around here, Ferocious Farncombe, I think it was, and there's a monster hill that goes out onto the North Downs. I just looked at my screen and I was like, I've been holding 400 watts here for way too long. Like, this is not sustainable. And then it sort of reteaches those skills, which is no bad thing.
So just to remind everyone, the Precision Race Team handicap race, it's usually available straight from the app in RGT. It can be found on RGTDB, and there's always reminders going out on the Facebook page as well, the Facebook user events and the Facebook RGT users group. And at the moment as well, if you look on the VCM page, we're streaming the events live as well, putting up links. So if you're not actually able to get down and to take part in the event, you can watch it on YouTube and Facebook Live as well. And it's also on Twitch and all the other sorts of avenues as well. Will, you've obviously developed a successful platform for yourself, successful job in something that you enjoy, love doing, Precision Race Team. I know as well that you're also bringing another platform on board. You've got something called Precision Race Rewards or Precision Rewards.
Yeah, Precision Rewards. Yeah. So really what that was, the world is ever changing, and in the last sort of 5-6 years, Instagram and social media and all this, products being pushed on people continually. And so what we decided to do, we've been in the business 20 to 23 years, it's nearly a quarter of a century. Wow. But over that time, we happily have worked with a lot of brands, and the ones that we feel are the best in our view have sort of floated to the top, and be that the best technologically, customer service, whatever it might be. And what we try to create is effectively remove Google. So if you go on a forum and ask, which are the best pedals, I mean, you're in real trouble straight away, because the diehards for every brand imaginable. You ask about, I don't know, what wetsuit, whatever. What we said, like, we create a site where you come here and it's that classic, it does what it says on the tin. You want a wetsuit that's going to do a good job, it's going to be Who. You want a bike that is got all the technology, but also is super adjustable, Specialized, and so on and so forth. But on top of that, to help people out, we have got over the years various discounts, and what we do is we pass that on. We have a tiered system. Tier 1, you can join just with your email and you'll get 10% off nearly pretty much all these brands. Tier 2, there's a small subscription fee on a monthly basis, but you get like 20% plus. And then Tier 3, you have to be part of Precision Race Team. It's like the secret squirrel discounts. And we're bringing on new brands all the time. We've got a good array. We've even got everything from booking.com, rent a car, to the bikes, the recovery technology, Chimera. There's a lot on there, and it's increasing all the time. And hopefully it's something that really offers great value for people, because this sport is not always the cheapest. So if we can do something that makes it a little bit cheaper, people therefore enjoy it a little bit more, frankly, if you're not remortgaging your house for some brake calipers. That's great. And yeah, long may it continue.
If you're not having to remortgage your house, are they actually worth it? Are they the best brake calipers if you're not having to spend?
I mean, there is that. How many people did you have to trample over to get to them? The last one in the store, that sort of thing. Although currently with the supply and shipping of Shimano and Campag, that's just routine now. But anyway, another debate for another time.
Yeah. Well, it's been great speaking to you this evening, Will. It's been great learning about your involvement with RGT, your involvement with the sport in general. And you obviously got a wealth of knowledge, and no doubt we'll be revisiting this chat and going through some other aspects in deeper. But I'll put on some links down to the Precision race team, the event, the handicap race, and the Precision Awards. I'll put those on in the stream description. And it's been great chatting to you. Thanks for spending the time.
All right. Have a good evening.